Mount Ararat, bordering Iran and eastern Turkey, is large and silent. For centuries, whispers, stories, and rumors have circulated about something ancient hidden beneath its slopes. Almost every civilization on Earth understands that Noah's Ark rested here after the Great Flood. However, something was found deep in these mountains, something that could confirm that story. Scientists found items in Noah's Ark that astonished the world and made people question history. It started quietly, almost accidentally. Archaeologists, geologists, and engineers examined odd rock formations around Mount Ararat. Locals had long told them about a strange shape after landslides, a vast, curved contour that looked like the bottom of a big ship buried in the ground. Some assumed it was a story, others a fantasy. However, modern technology was going to change everything. The first ground-penetrating radar scans were too significant to ignore. A 500-foot-long exact construction was visible below layers of hardened dirt and volcanic ash. Its dimensions matched Genesis to the cubit. The scientists were careful and didn't rush, but closer inspection of the data strengthened the case. Something non-natural was under them. Deep site samples were obtained. They initially expected normal rock. Although they didn't locate what they were looking for, they found organic carbon, the chemical fingerprint of living wood. Iron and manganese-rich strata were found after further research. These elements are rarely discovered in such high concentrations, unless they were created by humans or complex natural processes that made no sense. What may have caused this? Could this be the hardwood from a massive ship? As word spread, the squad doubled. International experts arrived with drones, high-resolution pictures, and seismic gear to scan the mountain deep down. A breathtaking pattern developed when they layered their scans. A ship-like frame was buried for millennia, not random or chaotic, planned and structured. Beams and walls, lines and angles, halls, rooms, even a large center area that may have been storage. The huge surprise came when they dug further. They found rusted metal fittings clinging to rock that appeared like they were constructed. This rock does not naturally contain titanium and aluminum alloys, but laboratory experiments detected minor amounts. How could something thousands of years old have metals like this? That one question shook science. Were ancient civilizations more advanced than we thought, or were we seeing at something prehistoric? Traditionalists considered the mountain holy. Scientists were warned not to touch what was below. They discussed strange nighttime lights on the hills and sudden storms when digging got too deep. Researchers persisted because people are curious. In the core samples, they found minuscule impressions that looked like wood grain and were well preserved, sparking endless dispute. Under a microscope, these patterns resembled plant and tree compounds, lignin and cellulose. This was undisputed. Before, it was wood. Unexpected results followed. One deeper scan had a human-sized hole. Slow, deliberate, almost sacred digging, air trapped for thousands of years, emerged as they broke through the crust. When the lights were dimmed, smooth surfaces replaced rough stone. They looked stronger since the walls were curved and layered. Some appeared to have tar on them. Time seems to have preserved a room untouchable since the beginning of humanity. They found non-geological items, mineral-fused metal shaped for a purpose. One piece had a carved design, almost like it was meant to be lovely. Another included tiny pieces of pitch, an ancient waterproofing material, as the Bible states. Thousands of years later, the stone under their hands still echoed the writing, "Cover it with tar on the inside and outside." The word spread, sparking global debate. Some dubbed it the most significant archaeological find of our time. Some thought it was a coincidence, and that nature could replicate the most convincing designs. Skeptics lost their resolve as more data emerged. The Bible states the Great Flood occurred 4,800 to 5,000 years ago, and carbon dating revealed that the organic samples were that ancient. Coincidence could only explain so much. How could a structure this enormous, high in the mountains, form by accident? Satellite images deepened the puzzle. They found an old mountain descent trail with big anchor-like stones. Each stone has holes on top, resembling ship anchors. These stones were miles apart, like marks for a journey taken long ago when this area was underwater. Nearby residents called them the Stones of the Flood. Could they have stabilized a large ship in rough waters? The area beyond the excavation site was more confusing. Fish, shells, and coral fossils were buried in mud. They were all 7,000 feet above sea level. It was clear that these mountains were underwater once. The impact was immense. If this edifice was a man-made ship preserved in the rock, it wasn't legend. It showed a massive calamity that altered memories. Something happened that freaked out even the most skeptical experts. In a later scan, the devices detected tiny metallic echoes deep in the formation. It seemed like locked chambers and compartments held unknown items. Some thought these were tools, antiques, or the bones of the building's builders or users. Others warned against touching old artifacts because they could spoil their mystery. However, the researchers couldn't resist. People have searched for Noah's Ark for centuries. They appeared to be inside. As they descended, the feeling of something fantastic grew. New mysteries and risks appeared with each layer. Equipment would malfunction unexpectedly. The batteries died in minutes. Magnetic measurements varied greatly. Some said the site didn't want to be bothered. Nobody knew if it was electromagnetic interference or something else. It was clear this was no ordinary archaeological dig. Mount Ararat hosted international journalists. As inside photos emerged, photographers, reporters, and specialists from across the world gathered. The photos showed identical curved beams that resembled ship ribs. Experts suspected sediment folding, but the symmetry was too perfect. This was so exact that erosion couldn't explain it. The tale became viral overnight. Millions watched in awe, wondering whether this was the discovery that confirmed one of the oldest and most important stories in history. Noah's Ark has been seen as a fable, allegory, or metaphor for centuries. After holding proof in their hands in the mountain's heart, many scientists began to rethink what they had been taught. Could the Great Flood have occurred worldwide? Could a forgotten society have created something that survived? What more did they know that we don't? As they continued, the crew uncovered further signs of intelligent design, such as layers of stone and patterns, odd mineral deposits that indicated intense heat or energy, and traces of a black resin-like material that appeared to line some chambers. Some considered it waterproofed long ago. Others thought it was a preservative, added to keep things safe. Every new clue deepened the mystery. Everyone stopped talking at that time. A faint engraving was deep inside a side chamber. Minerals obscured the symbol, round like an ancient badge or insignia. After careful cleaning, it displayed lines that could have been waves, water, or movement. Did that signal the flood? Maybe a mark from the ship's builders before the seas? Whatever happened stunned the group to the core. Ancient societies from Mesopotamia to South America have comparable symbols. They all depict a boat, flood, and survival. While recording and photographing the carving, something extraordinary happened. Ancient sign experts found unusual correlations between the room's wall writings and flood myths from civilizations that should never have been able to communicate. Ancient Mesopotamia, Central America, and Southeast Asia share the spiral, ship surrounded by stormy seas, and rebirth emblem. How might the same visuals appear in different parts of the world thousands of years before written history connected them? Archaeologist Dr. Elena Moretti was one of the first to say what others were afraid to say. Says, "This isn't just a new thing about Noah's Ark. It's a discovery about people, about how we all remember something that changed the world." Her disclosure alarmed intellectuals, but proof kept flowing. Deeper core samples from the building indicated alternate layers of petrified organic material and compacted sediment. It appeared that gigantic wooden beams were buried by silt waves before becoming stone. Micro-CT imaging revealed growing rings in several strata. These motifs match antique wood. These findings would mean the remains weren't natural geological formations. The fossilized remains of whatever constructed were obvious. Not the most shocking news. Scientists found minuscule traces of bitumen, a natural asphalt used as a waterproof barrier in ancient times, in their chemical tests. Genesis said the Ark was covered inside and out with pitch. It seems that the old book was a detailed account of an event rather than a story. Geophysical 3D models provide the first glimpse into Mount Ararat's interior. Drawings showed a ship with multiple decks, chambers, and a main hallway that ran almost the whole length of the building. I thought each component had extra supports, which early shipbuilders needed to keep their ships together in stormy seas. Shape wasn't random, it was intended, measured, on purpose. But scientists continued. Studying the building's surroundings revealed massive old water flow. Erosion and sediment stacking were larger than a little flood. Some geologists believe this was evidence of a massive flood that buried entire territories for years or centuries. The discovery rekindled an ancient debate. Was the Great Flood in sacred scriptures a global event? Sumerians, Chinese, Mayans, and Aboriginal Australians wrote about the world drowned and just a handful survived. All stories ended with a clean slate and new beginnings, regardless of culture. If Noah's Ark existed, it proved more than a flood. It implied skilled craftsmen existed thousands of years before historians imagined they could. The building's beams, supports, and construction demonstrated that its builders understood weight distribution and hydrodynamics, which shouldn't have been conceivable at the start of civilization. This was not built by a primitive. Builders, engineers, and survivors. However, some doubted. Critics suggested pattern recognition and wishful thinking influenced the statistics. They claimed natural rock formations resembled beams or decks. Even doubters worried when ground-penetrating radar indicated regular, recurring measurements, evenly spaced chunks that traversed the full 500-foot length of the location. Nature could create beautiful, surprising, or symmetrical objects, but not mathematically exact. Researchers weren't just concerned with the stone. Something was jammed inside. Deep in the hardened layers were microscopic fragments of organic fibers, including plant debris, pollen, and animal proteins. The samples contained fossilized remains of insects not endemic to Turkey, but similar to those from ancient Mesopotamia. How might lower plains animals get lodged in stone at such high altitude? Did a tremendous wave bring the Ark, as legend says? Tests revealed another clue that many called the Ark's heartbeat. Radar detected unusual reflections that resembled faint signals bouncing around vacant zones. On a map, these reflections form a pulse through the formation. Engineers suspected it was a mix of mineral density and trapped air pockets. Some, like those who stood in the empty room and felt the little vibration under their feet, weren't convinced. It felt like standing over something alive and unknowable. According to some, world attention increased. Documentaries, opinion pieces, and late-night debates dominated the media. Religious leaders said it proved God's truth. Scientists requested care, testing, and peer review. But even the wisest wondered if this was the Ark. What if stories were old memories that shaped people's ideas and culture? The squad's next move was perilous. A small, self-driving probe would be used to enter one of the sealed compartments they identified below the surface. Lights, cameras, and sensors checked temperature and made up air. After going down the little shaft, the feed showed blackness and mineral deposits on the bending sides. Dust particles shone gold as it got deeper. The probe ended abruptly. A man-made object was embedded in the wall in front of them. Its smooth metallic surface featured a design no one could immediately identify. Natural erosion could not have made such precise traces. As the camera got closer, they realized the symbols were ordered, a repeating letter shape. Nobody knew the language. Non-cuneiform, non-hieroglyphic, not an ancient civilization's writing. The symbols resembled math, as if hiding instructions or history. The squad watched the live feed silently. One researcher whispered, "If this is real, we're looking at something older than writing itself." After pulling back the probe, the air sample was examined. It contained small amounts of methane and ancient spores from a biosphere that had been isolated for thousands of years. The isotopic age matched the carbon-dated material, 5,000 years. Every test, scan, and piece of evidence pointed to one inconceivable conclusion. This was a man-made structure preserved by time, buried by a disaster, and left alone until now. The team became more anxious as they got closer to the truth. Equipment breakdowns increased. Compass readings spun, radio signals were disrupted near the dig site. Others weren't convinced it was mineral deposits, electromagnetic interference. One evening, the ground shook as the sun set behind the mountain. Rocks from the mountainside barely missed the main tent. One researcher noticed a hairline fissure across the site, cutting through the formation. After things calmed down, every scientist, historian, and believer who witnessed the events would soon be curious about what was beyond that break, because whatever was in that crack wasn't old. The modern world wasn't ready. Over the next few days, the fissure grew, breaking the formation's cemented surface like a peeling scar. Every tremor echoed over the scene with terrifying accuracy, as if the mountain were breathing. Engineers carefully used ground-penetrating radar to determine crack depth. The findings made them speak softly. Void networks existed below the break. They were rectangular, perfectly aligned, and connected by small tubes that looked designed. It felt like a network of rooms or compartments was sealed inside. The crew debated expanding the opening for weeks. It was risky because a mistake could wipe out all saved data. Curiosity trumped fear. The debris was swept away under close supervision, revealing a flat chamber wall. Not rough rock, completed, formed. Precision that 5,000 years ago was impossible. They found amazing impressions of wooden planks pressed together with black resin-like stuff sealing each seam in a small part. After analysis, the resin contained small amounts of hydrocarbons and plant oil. Early waterproofing compounds contained these two main ingredients. This was not random. The builders planned it. The camp radio hollered, "We found a door!" The door wasn't a modern door. It was large and rectangular, protruding from the wall. Its outline was clear but immovable. The team carefully drilled the edges and installed microscopic pressure sensors. They broke through with a faint hiss, like air escaping a locked chamber after thousands of years. Silt was removed piece by piece until a camera-sized hole was created. The lens pushed through the tiny opening, and the display made everyone shiver. A hollow room with bent supports resembling giant animal ribs was inside. Though shiny from mineral deposits, the walls were strong. Fragmented boxes covered in crystalline debris littered the floor. There, half buried in dirt, something shone faintly in the fake light. It was initially thought to be an optical illusion. The camera adjusted to reveal a round metallic device with the same symbols as before. It looked like time had spared it, thanks to its preservation. The researcher gasped quietly. Digitally enlarged, the pattern showed arcs that crossed to form a spiral inside a ring. Ancient flood tales worldwide used the cycle of renewal to symbolize destruction and rebirth. The discovery was tested immediately. The artifact's composition surprised everyone. Its low titanium and nickel content is unfathomable for that time. This would mean that someone thousands of years ago learned modern metallurgy. There were many theories. Some believed it showed a highly developed civilization that was destroyed by the flood. Some assumed it was coming from space. However, how it ended inside Noah's Ark is unknown. The structure began to display its construction as more rooms were drawn. Lower chambers were evenly distributed and appeared to represent storage. The larger upper levels with ventilation apertures looked like dwellings. Some scans indicated staircases between levels, but most were concealed by hundreds of years of sediment. Every new item made the ancient myth of a ship designed to endure disaster and save lives disturbingly true. The team's exhilaration grew, but something else bothered them. Electromagnetic field instruments detected odd changes around the artifact room. Equipment and communication lines were damaged by erratic readings. Microphones sometimes picked up low-frequency vibrations, like a faint hum, not mechanical, nothing to do with rocks. It almost had a rhythm. Several night crew members reported seeing something strange happen late one night when the wind blew across the site. The dig site lights fluctuated, dimmed, and brightened. A gentle amber light bounced off the mountainsides and lit up the scene for a while. The main team returned the next morning to find that the rift had deepened overnight, revealing more of the chamber. Some said it was a coincidence. Some thought the mountain had opened up more, revealing what was hidden. The freshly exposed area yielded more biological artifacts than metal ones. Braided fabric on the walls was fossilized by mineralization. Testing revealed that the samples were plant fibers coiled and layered like rope, a small but crucial element. Rope symbolizes building, intention, and people. The story extended beyond science journals as evidence grew. Global networks provide live Mount Ararat updates. The phrase "discovery inside Noah's Ark" spread worldwide. Watchers debated if this was faith meeting fact or nature playing tricks on the mind. Governments cared. Religious leaders arrived. For the first time in decades, believers and non-believers faced the same riddle. An antique document uncovered hundreds of kilometers away in a deserted monastery archive near Lake Van may have been scarier than the dig. The 4th century Aramaic manuscript mentioned a vessel of stone buried in the mountain of fire containing the covenant of renewal. Scholars debated its meaning, but Arcadia stood out when translated again. Some believed it was a lyrical reference to the Ark's resting place, while others believed it was a secret site created after the flood. The final sentence shocked historians, and within its heart lies the proof that men before men walked the world, and their knowledge was drowned beneath the waters. The text renewed the debate. Was the Ark a way to save people and preserve a lost civilization? The mountain seemed to have unfathomable secrets. Temperature sensors placed throughout the site found areas warmer than the rock. This could indicate trapped geothermal pockets or interior reactions. No volcanic vents were recognized nearby. Some thought the inside, likely minerals and organic organic substances generated heat through chemical reactions. Some secretly suspected it was something else, non-scientific. Everything changed with the discovery. The team discovered a sealed room deeper than previously. It was larger, rectangular, and lined with a peculiar material that reflected radar differently than stone, wood, or metal. They called it Chamber Zero. Drilling through hardened lava rock may take weeks to reach it. A modest but steady resonance frequency from inside the chamber was detected for the first time when the first borehole impacted it. The sound was examined, not just random sounds. The pattern repeated rhythmically with uniform spacing, similar to a frozen heartbeat. The signal initially appeared to be interference to the researchers. They suspected drilling equipment feedback or seismic resonance. The sound persisted after all machines were switched off. It repeatedly pumped through the rock every 12 seconds. The measurements were clear, yet weak. It felt like something deep inside the space was alive, or intended to look alive. The team stopped excavating immediately. Engineers installed vibration and acoustic sensors around the crack. Their findings deepened the mystery. The signal was strongest over Chamber Zero and weaker away, indicating it wasn't outside. While some scientists thought it was trapped gases flowing inside the void, others thought it was piezoelectric activity, which occurs when mineral layers compress and relax and release small electric charges. A geophysicist warned that the frequency's accuracy was too high for a natural process. It ran things, measured on purpose. The news sparked online theories. Was that an old machine, a forgotten tech, or something utterly hidden? Governments fretted. Due to environmental instability, local officials temporarily closed the peak, limiting satellite photography. The little pulse continued every night, echoing down the ground like a heartbeat fixed in history. Dr. Moretti and her team performed a low-frequency resonance scan one night. Sound sensors were placed within 2 kilometers and tested with deep earth sonar. Turning on the instruments affected the pulse. It briefly matched the sonar's signal when its beat shifted. Team stopped. Whatever was inside reacted. No one could explain how an enclosed space under solid rock could behave so premeditated and flexible, coincidence or not. The next day, they drilled a pen-sized hole for a fiber optic camera. As the lens descended through dust and minerals, the stream flickered and the image shook. It suddenly broke through into space. Light passed over smooth, non-stone or metal surfaces. Time-obscured glass. In the control tent, everyone moved closer when the focus changed. They saw rows of objects embedded in crystalline casing along the chamber's far wall. They were evenly spaced, lined up, and roughly a person tall. The outline was too evident and deliberate. In the tent, breathing was difficult. In a hushed voice, someone murmured, "Those look like figures." The interference-distorted picture showed genuine shapes inside the clear material. Inside the structure, shapes stood still, as if buried or preserved. Campers were afraid and didn't believe what was happening. Could they be ancient bones? Figures? Something else entirely? Some scientists advised caution and waiting for further evidence before guessing. The symbolism were too intense to ignore. Traditional beliefs say the Ark carried life through tragedy. Could this room have been its last defense? A place to safeguard animals, knowledge, humans, or something we don't understand? More rock analysis around the chamber revealed something odd. The surrounding material released measured but harmless radiation. Although certain minerals emit radiation naturally, the precise isotopes found here suggested an artificial source. Radiation largely surrounded the room's seams, defining its limits. It was a perfect confined field. Someone intentionally blocked this region. Obsession gripped Dr. Moretti. She spent evenings in the control tent reviewing tape, readings, and logic. Her field notes from then became famous. Monthly cycles, constellations, and the pattern happens again every 12 seconds. Non-random pulse. Time is posted here. The builder wanted it to last. Wanted it found. The night the mountain shouted, the sensors went crazy just after midnight. The pulse got stronger and faster until all the instruments flared with faults. Even though there was no earthquake nearby, the ground shook. Researchers rushed out of their tents when Mount Ararat's slopes began to glow with a delicate light that seemed to breathe with the signal. Cameras caught the light moving across the fissure's surface. The pulse stopped completely. By morning, all devices stopped working. The team checked the borehole camera feed and found it dead. The lens was broken and the line was sliced cleanly, as if it had been melted by fire. Whatever had happened inside the chamber had stopped suddenly, leaving only silence and warmth. The nearby rock data showed a fast rise in temperature, followed by a quick drop. Many team members were moved to other projects or quit the project after government officials closed off the area, saying the research was entering a sensitive stage. They took the data and sent samples to further analysis at unnamed facilities. People said the tale was overdone and that it was a misunderstanding of natural events that got worse due to online rumors. After one interview months later, Dr. Moretti vanished. Her final statement to the press was brief but memorable. "We were wrong to think of it as a ship. It wasn't meant to go on the water, but back in time." Her remarks sparked global upset. Was it a metaphor or real? Was the Ark more than simply a way to survive? Could it have been a capsule of life, history, and knowledge that survived calamities and sent a message? Later tests showed that the chamber's carbon-based substance had a synthetic polymer crystal structure and was isotopically different from anything on Earth. Scientists believed that if something came from the flood, people didn't know enough about ancient technology. Religious scholars compared this to the covenant of preservation, a vow to save flesh and memory. World myths told of gods or heroes keeping the seed of life in star-shaped containers. Could this room, this heartbeat under the mountain, be where those stories came from? Seismic detectors in eastern Turkey occasionally detect faint, repeating vibrations near Mount Ararat. always 12 seconds apart and in the same way. Access is limited, therefore research is limited. No one can explain them. Some call it geological resonance, others God's proof. But those who stood on that mountain and heard the pulse knew better. A message, and it continues. Once the pulse stopped, the mountain was quiet. What had been a free scientific partnership became a regulated operation. Military trucks came in, fences were built. The scientists were told not to return, even the local guides who had helped them get to the higher slopes. In a few days, fog and obscurity covered up the world's attention. In all the confusion, one thing was clear. The data, scans, and samples were real. Too many people had seen them to be fake. The question was not if anything amazing had been found. That's why no one believed them. Months passed. The snow returned to the tops and covered the dig site with ice. A few researchers who had worked on the project in Istanbul met in secret and gave each other the few things they still had. Data logs, backup scans, and pictures taken before the items were taken. They started putting the puzzle back together piece by piece. What they found was shocking. If the ark was what it was, it might have been more symmetrical than the ratios used in ancient temples, pyramids, and ziggurats around the world, which were thousands of kilometers apart and built by civilizations with nothing in common. Satellite images taken before the site was closed showed faint outlines spreading from the main structure, like buried ridges in many directions. When elevation data was added, they looked like canals that water had carved out. One went straight to the Araxes River Valley. Geological studies proved that 5,000 years ago, that valley was covered by a huge inland sea. If the ark had stayed there, the waters might have lifted it. They saw death, life, and rebirth. They built the ark not just to save lives, but also to save meaning. A scientist recorded her thoughts late at night at the camp on one of the recovered audio logs, her voice quiet against the wind. Maybe it's not about proving a story. After being released, her words spread silently online and reached more than just academics. People around the world were interested in both the science and the human story behind it. The idea that humans went through a terrible disaster so long ago that they chose to record it in stone. At the same time, independent researchers used open source satellite data to map tiny changes in the land over time. What they found was disturbing. The ground around the site kept moving a little bit, even after the official excavation was over, as if the mountain was settling or breathing. The seismic data showed a small vibration every 12 seconds, real but too quiet to hear. No one could figure it out. It wasn't tectonic or a machine, but a fixed beat. The discovery renewed interest in the flood account worldwide. Historians examined old literature from cultures that were supposed to be unrelated. The Sumerian epic of Gilgamesh, the Babylonian Atrahasis, the Hindu account of Manu, and the Aztec myth of Coxcox. Each described a massive flood and made a vow that people would remember. A drone flew over Mount Ararat and caught a glimpse of metal through melting snow. It was shiny and shone in the sun, right where the restricted zone began. Officials said it was trash from old equipment, but many who had been following the story knew what it was. It fit the curve of the structure below it. However, the remaining members of the original study team worked silently to examine isotopic traces from materials sneaked out before the building was closed. They found tiny bubbles of salty water in the petrified wood, indicating that the building had been underwater for a long time. They also found pollen from plants that grow on multiple continents. This was like the ark storing parts of the planet inside its hull. The sound files, recordings of the weak pulse heard under the mountain, showed harmonic overtones that were too regular to be random. Some acousticians thought it was resonance from the formation's stratified cavities, like a big organ pipe makes music. Others saw a deeper pattern. The time between pulses matched the Fibonacci. It may be a coincidence, or the ark, created by humans long ago, displayed the same underlying order that governs the universe. Over time, the world's focus shifted, but those who saw the finding in person never forgot. Many said their views on history had changed, and that the line between myth and archaeology would never be clear again. Some went back to their institutions quietly and kept working in secret. Some just stopped being in the public eye. Years later, one documentary said, "The discovery didn't prove or disprove faith. It reminded us that survivors' experiences are true." Geology and myths across cultures suggest that a massive flood occurred 5,000 years ago in Mesopotamia, when melting glaciers caused the seas to rise and flow into the valleys. The ark, whatever it is a symbol of survival, a message engraved in stone that people will always live on. New expeditions using drone-based LiDAR, quantum imaging, and neutrino scanning may reveal what lies beyond Chamber Zero without damaging any stones. The pulse may return someday. Mount Ararat is quiet now, covered in mist, and the wind whispers through its slopes. Locals still talk about blinking lights at night and deep rumbles from below the ground. Some believe the mountain protects the remnants of the Great Flood, while others believe it preserves our earliest memories until we are ready to grasp them. Noah's Ark's discovery changed my perspective on life and reminded me that the past is alive and well, buried, waiting, and screaming out across time in ways we don't understand. Whether it's a god, a person, a myth, or a monument, it symbolizes everything we've lost and everything we're still searching for. Be patient, forever. A pulse lurks under Mount Ararat's frozen granite, in a room that hasn't been touched in 5,000 years. It's a pre-civilization beat that some say you can feel in the earth. No warning, no miracle. Just a note, the world collapsed then. Someone made sure we'd remember. Please like, share, and subscribe. Some stories are still unfolding beneath the surface of time.